Today, we're going to have a very special guest that was a huge part of crafting my meaningful life. What he does for a living is to teach people about how to connect, how to be hospitable, what that really means, what that looks like. Doesn't it seem odd to you that after over 400 episodes, I'm finally doing an episode on something that I spent my 35 years of career doing? It does seem odd, but I'm so excited to have him on. Taylor Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
It is just a delight. I've interviewed when my title is as broad as crafting a meaningful life, that can run the gamut, from people who are in the middle of surviving childhood sexual abuse, and they're now in their 50s and sharing their story, all the way to people who are living the luxe lifestyle and want to invite other people into that luxe lifestyle and how to get it, and every single thing in between. But I know what hospitality means to me, so I want to find out what it means to you. So let's start right there. Before we do the where are you and where have you been, I want to know your definition, what hospitality means to you.
Yeah, at its core, hospitality, in my view, and with all of the experience that I've had, both personally and professionally, hospitality is just how we make people feel. We were talking about Will Guidara's book, Unreasonable Hospitality, before we came into the studio and hit record. And I love his quote that sums it up. And and I'm not too proud to quote another fellow hospitality advocate, but he says service is black and white, but hospitality is in color. And so I've always
Ah,
loved that quote that he has. And so, yeah, for me, it's like hospitality was something we feel, not something we do. And the magic of it, I believe, is we feel that magic both when we're receiving it and when we're giving it.
ah, that is probably something my listeners are so familiar with. That concept that giving and receiving are the same thing. They're the same energy. And some of us get stuck with the flow. We're great at giving, but dang, we don't feel worthy of receiving. But the greatest is when it flows, giving and receiving. Let's start back with how in the heck did you get involved with hospitality?
Yeah, I grew up in Eastern Kentucky, born and raised there, grew up playing basketball, as many of us do coming from Kentucky.
Yeah.
And when it came time to go on vacation, when we were kids, when my sister and I were kids, my mom and dad took us to Walt Disney World. Like from the time I was 5 years old, my sister was 3 years old. So we would go there, and that was kind of our thing. That was our place. And I just
Yeah.
loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved being with my family, but also experiencing new things and different things, but also some of those classic things that we would always do, and it became tradition for us. So when it came time for me to go to college, I was researching, really good smaller schools that I could try to walk on and play basketball.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
found Florida Southern College in Lakeland, Florida. That's 40
Oh,
miles west of Walt Disney
yeah.
World. So I chose to go there for undergrad. And every summer in college, I did the Walt Disney World College Program, which is an internship program where you go over there and there's three components: living, learning, and earning. So you live it was awful. Miss Crafts, like you have to live in an apartment complex with 3,000 other college students, and you get to work a role in the show somewhere in the 48 square miles of a Walt Disney World resort, and you go to Disney University like every
Oh,
week,
sure.
and you go through these workshops, and there's a learning component. Well, I fell in love with that, hook, line, and sinker. That's where I got the hospitality bug early at like age, I guess before I was 18, 19, when I was a guest, when I was a kid. But when I really started to work those summers at Walt Disney World, I was like, okay, this is an industry, this is an environment, this is an energy that I want to be around for the long haul.
Wow. That's amazing that you picked that up as a small child and recognized that it wasn't just the rides at
Yeah,
Disneyland World. It was much more than that. It was the way they were presented. It was like having you there was a gift to them. And they were so just like making it an experience. Nowadays, those two words, hospitality and creating an experience, are just like commonplace. Back then, you didn't think about that.
I agree. Yeah, they were definitely before their time, and so many brands, so many other organizations, and now, so many other industries have
Yep.
taken their cues from not only Disney, but some of the other
Yep.
classic hospitality institutions, whether it's Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, or what. And I live here in Las Vegas, and so we have no shortage of hospitality experiences here in this town as
That's
well.
right. You don't, you definitely don't. Well, it's one thing to be a kid who loves Disney World, and even to have gone to Disney, World University,
Mhm.
and to move, though, to where this is my life's calling, and to have written 3 books. You tell me about the 3 books you've written.
Yeah, the first book was called Ball Games to Boardrooms: Leadership, Business, and Life Lessons from Our Coaches We Never Knew We Needed. And I
Ah,
started writing that as a passion project, because what happened prior to that really is probably what has led to what I'm doing today and what I have been doing these last 7, 8 years. So, like, I spent 20 plus years working in different lines of business with different organizations in the hospitality and entertainment industries. Walt Disney World, where I got my start, and then Gaylord Hotels, Gaylord
oh,
Palm
wow,
Resort and
yeah.
Convention Center in Orlando. I was a housekeeping manager, then a Bell Services manager, and then I went back to Disney's Pop Century Resort as a front desk manager, as a part of the opening team for that. And then I transitioned to be in sales and marketing for about 3 years. And then I like wanted to grow and wanted to learn, so I spread my wings and I left. And I went to graduate school and I got an MBA
Wow.
focused in the management of hospitality at the Cornell Hotel School. From there, I landed here in Las Vegas. So I was the director of loyalty marketing at Wynn and Encore, as well as at the time that we were opening Encore, which was a crazy experience, but
Yeah.
awesome at the same time. And then I was on the opening team, had the exact same role pretty much, director of loyalty marketing at the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas. And I loved everything we were trying to
One
do
of my
there with the
favorite
culture being
hotels, yeah.
different. Yeah, it was a little different energy, and for me, it was the closest thing to Disney on the Las Vegas Strip that I
Yeah.
could find. So I did that for 4 years, and then I went back to Disney, but at Disneyland, and I led the sales team at Disney Vacation Club, which is Disney's version of vacation ownership or timeshare. So I did that for a few years, and it was during the reason I tell you about all of that is just to say that my favorite part about each of those career stops, each of those seasons of life, my favorite part truly were the times when my own leaders would send me to a leadership development workshop or have a leadership development experience, whether it was with our leadership team or going to a thing, to an event, to
Yeah.
a conference.
Yeah.
And I just was doing some soul searching and some probably similar to the work that you do. I was trying to figure out how in the world can I do that for a living?
Yeah.
And so that's how all this really started is I as a passion project then, Ball Games to Boardrooms was self-published, and then I had another passion project. I was like, how come wonder why it is we love certain leaders. We follow certain leaders, we do more for certain leaders than we do for other leaders. And I started doing some research just for fun. I mean, I have no
Right.
life. This was just like a passion project kind of thing. And I started realizing all these parallels between gracious hospitality and inspirational leadership, like
Uh,
actual backed by science reasons that there are some commonalities. So I started putting pen to paper and just doing a little outline. And so anyway, Lead with Hospitality was then born. So I wrote this book based upon those 20 years that I worked at all those places, and I took some of the best things that I learned from different brands and different leaders, and in also instances where I had terrible leaders and not so magical moments of what so lessons of what not to do, And so it ended up working out. And so I was able to then create an organization of my own called Lead with Hospitality LLC. And so now we're a group, we're a group of like-minded professionals like you and me who we believe in this stuff. We believe in a human approach to leadership. And so companies will now hire us and we go in and
Yes,
we
yes.
either we craft learning experiences, we craft workshops and we customize them to certain brands where they are in their journey, and then I do keynotes and all the things. And then we just came out with our third book over the summer. It's called Give Hospitality, and this is a fable. This is a story of a young up and comer named Summer Grace, and she leaves a toxic job with a toxic boss, and she goes to work at a more magical place called Calvella Resorts. Calvella means summertime in Hawaiian, so there's a Hawaiian theme, all based upon the spirit of aloha,
I
which is
read
we.
bits and pieces of this book.
Very good. Well, thank you.
Um,
Thank you. So that's sort of like
yeah, I
how it
wanna
all
I in
works
fact,
together.
is it on audio?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that'll be my next book. There they go.
Yeah, the first
Yeah.
two, Ball Games to Boardrooms and Lead with Hospitality, I narrate the audiobooks. Those are available. And then George Newbern, he's a well-established, highly sought after audiobook narrator. And so he actually narrates Give Hospitality.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you definitely have put in your time and your diligence and your education in being where you are. But I sense there's something more.
Me too. Me too.
And that is that you don't stay, because I always tell people when people would want advice on, about going into the hospitality industry and should they do this and what would be the pathway. I'm like, you you'll want to make sure that you have a passion for it, a true passion, because if you don't, it'll eat you alive. Hospitality industry can take your life and put it into a place that you don't want to be, and they get you to believe that if you're really about service, that's what you need to do. And I said, so if you have a passion for it, then it can be yours. So how's your passion for this hospitality industry? What's under all the university titles and the experience? What is your passion?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love that you asked it. I love this quote. It's purpose is the reason we journey, but passion is the fire that lights the way. And so for me, as I got into this space, back in 2018, 2019, I slowly but surely transitioned, from having the corporate roles to then slowly but surely getting out here as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah.
And I worked for a guy and wanted to learn the business. He had a business like the one that I have today. And he taught me, well, I don't know how much he taught me. I learned by being around through
Yeah.
osmosis, probably more than he taught. But he just encouraged me to like study and like read up on all of the different leadership principles. He's like, if you want to really do this, you got to know this stuff inside and out. And so for me, that was sort of like the beginning of like opening my eyes to, wait a minute, maybe I am passionate about this part. And that is, that answer your question, is inspiring and encouraging people, is being an uplifter kind of a guy. Being an encourager is just helping people understand and remember that they have magic, they have gifts of their own, God-given gifts that the world needs. And when
Yeah.
and if we can find those within ourselves and be confident in them and lean into them, and when we give those to others, it changes the game. And so that really at the core is my passion. And so I love the whole purpose piece as well. So I kind of learned I follow a lot of different pastors, not a lot, 3 or 4 pastors that I love. One of which is Andy Stanley. He's down in Atlanta, and he's the son of Charles Stanley, the famous, uh, preacher that many of us, or maybe people in your generation saw him on TV quite a
Right.
bit. But Andy is his son. And so actually, I think it's more like 30 years ago now, Andy started his own church. Anyway, several years ago, he did a sermon series on purpose, like on the topic of purpose. And I loved what he did, and I loved the whole sentiment. And I took a little framework that he had that was very churchy. And I, not that I'm against church, I'm a Christian, but I like made it more worky, like more like corporate so that we could use it and leverage some of this sort of faith-based stuff out here in the marketplace. And so I
Right.
loved what he did. And this is what I share with my clients and my teams and anybody who wants to bring me in to have these types of conversations is there's a way we can find our purpose. Asking ourselves 3 questions, and then you can make 1 statement to have be your personal purpose statement. So for me, it was doing this sort of introspective work to further answer your question several years ago, like 6 years ago, when I realized, wait, maybe my purpose is the following. Because I was able to ask myself those 3 questions. Ready?
Mhm.
What are my strengths?
Yes.
What breaks my heart? And who do I
Yeah.
want to help? What are my
Wow.
strengths? What breaks my heart, and who do I want to help? So for me, it was about I've learned, at this point, I'm 46 now. So I was like late 30s, early 40s when I'm doing this sort of like introspection. And I'm like, wait a minute, okay, so my strengths, I'm a pretty good writer, I'm a pretty good speaker. So like I want and what breaks my heart is when people, me included, are in a job or they're in a season where they're just so frustrated and they're so heartbroken, mostly because they have a bad leader and
Uh,
they cry. They would call me and cry because they're so frustrated and they want to get out. They want to come back to my team or they want to come back to our company versus it just break my heart. And then who I want to help is like up and coming leaders, people that are just starting out on their leadership journey, but also I've realized this a lot in the last 2 or 3 years. There's also, as you probably work with a lot of them as well, there's also seasoned leaders. There's also people that have been out here in corporate America for years,
yeah.
decades, some of them, and they're frustrated and they're crying as they drive home from work every night. So I came up with this thing. I was like, well, I realized it for myself. I'm like, this opened up my eyes and my heart to be like, okay, this is now the path because I found what my personal purpose is. And also I understand that my passion is to be this encourager. So like put it all together and it's like my purpose is to leverage my ability to write and speak and encourage to inspire up and coming leaders as well as seasoned leaders to experience more joy and success in life. And
Mhm.
beyond that, it's like there's this way we can approach this thing that creates both money and meaning at the same time, as opposed to thinking you have to do one or the other. Long winded way of
Yeah.
saying, found my purpose and then also package it up with my passion. And that's what I help other people do as well.
I love that because I just think that people have to have and do something that is well, they don't have to. They can choose not to do something that they're passionate about. But then they get to my age and they ask, and I talk to them all the time. You know, is this all there is to life? You know,
Right.
just that cold howling wind at the top of the success ladder, which finds a lot of people like, well, what's next? Or like, there must be more, or my time has passed me by. And what you're saying is that you don't have to be a bobblehead doll and just take what life throws at you. That you can be the master of your destiny and where you're going and what you're gonna live your life like every single day. And what a great gift that is to everyone, whether or not they're in the hospitality industry, it is about how you can live your life.
That's
So,
right.
let me ask you a question in terms of I think probably most people who work in the hospitality industry or really any industry where they are forward facing, they probably have this assumption. Oh yeah, sure, I'm hospitable. I'm definitely a hospitable person. I love to serve people. Oh yeah, totally. That's me. That's me. What else is there? Yeah, that's of course. What are the questions that you ask yourself to know and to determine where you are on this hospitality timeline. So you have to kind of know where you are to know where you go from here. What are the questions you ask yourself?
For somebody that wants to truly be hospitable, is that the crux of your question?
Yeah.
Well, I think the difference in service and hospitality again is service is something we do, but hospitality is something we feel. whether we're giving it or receiving it. So one of the core things that I think will answer your question, one of the core things we believe in that we try to share with organizations who are asking themselves those same questions, or leaders of organizations that want their teams to be asking themselves that
Yes,
question,
yes.
uh, is to look at this as relationships, not transactions.
Ah, thank you.
Relationships, not transactions. That is a mindset. And as you were talking just a few seconds ago there, what was going through my mind was like, it really comes down to mindset most of the time. No matter where we are in our journey, no matter how old we are, no matter how advanced we've become, no matter how much success we have, um, I mean, I'm an old school athlete, so it was always like ingrained into us, like MTXE, mental toughness,
Yeah.
extra effort back in the day. And
Yeah.
so the longer, and that's really what the crux of my first book, Ball Games to Boardrooms, was like taking all those little nuggets, little lessons, little dimes that we learned from our coaches
Yeah, I love
playing our
that.
sports and then applying them today. So it comes into play here. And so for anybody asking themselves that question, I just would encourage you to go, if you really want to make, so ask yourself, do you want to make a good impression, or do you want to make a positive impact?
Ah,
There's a difference. That's a
wow.
mindset switch. So when you start shifting from impression to impact, then you start thinking about it as I'm gonna be interested more than I try to come across interesting.
Ah,
Now you're having conversations with a coworker, even with your own leader, with a guest, a customer, or a client, with a business partner. Now you're having conversations that are so meaningful that they will lead to a relationship, which will then begin to change the entire game. And as we all know, when we get into relationship, the relationship mindset, the relationship heart set, it changes not only when we change how we think, it changes what comes out of our mouth, and then it becomes to change, it starts to change the actions we take. And so now you're actually giving more than you're trying to receive. And
yeah.
like you probably heard it said, Mel Robbins has been saying this all over Instagram and the internet and her book and all the things, and let them. But I love it. It's leaders bring the weather.
Ooh,
Leaders
I've heard her
bring the
say
weather,
that, yes. So
which is like just
powerful.
to say your energy precedes you. So,
Yeah.
like, whatever energy you're bringing to anything, whether it's work, professional or personal, professional, uh, with your family, especially around the holidays, like the energy that you bring has the potential to completely change the environment. And that could go one of two ways. And so the question for all of us is, we all make a difference with what we say and what we do. But the real question is, what kind of difference do you want to make? Do you want it to be a positive one or a negative one?
Mm. I love this talk about transactional versus relationships. Now I'm involved with a lot of philanthropy, nonprofit, and we just had a Utah Philanthropy Day, and the main theme was, if you're looking for dollars for your nonprofit, don't ask transactional requests of the donors. We're like, "Oh, yeah, I just need you to give $1,000. Will you please give $1,000,000?" And this is because every single thing that we're doing, you can see, has value, and it's very transactional. And once we get your money, thank you very much, and we'll send you a report next year. Versus those who want to ask basis because they built a relationship. Now, those kind of donors are ongoing and open their hearts for a very long time. For
Yeah, way
me,
more sustainable.
yeah, way more sustainable. For me, like, I was in my career for 35 years. The first 20 of them was one person. The last 15 was another person. And when I finally moved to genuine, authentic hospitality was when I finally looked at this piece of motivation. What was my motivation? Definitely transactional, where I used people to tell me that I was great.
Yep.
I used people to want to pay the big bucks to me because then that meant I had the stamp of approval. When I did Oprah, when I did the president, when I did all these different people, that was saying, "Okay, Mary must be really great." And of course, I would take a phone call any time of the day. I would jump in my car and do whatever was necessary. The action was the same as the last 15 years, but the motivation behind it was completely different. The first one was all about me not being enough and getting other people transactionally to heal me. The last 15 years was me knowing that I had great worth and I could change and lift someone's life through my service and my love. This came to me at an event one time when the mayor of Salt Lake reached out to me and said, Mary, I have, I can't even remember what group it was now, coming into town. We want to serve them something and we want to make sure that we do it. I mean, these are people that have dined around the world. So make sure they get an experience that they've never had before. And I'm thinking like, what do you want me to do? Reinvent chocolate? I mean,
Yeah.
what do you do that these people that have dined around the world never had before? So, and now at this point in time, I've been retired. So this is probably 20 years ago. I thought and thought in my brain, what could possibly do? I got a large room. I put all the chefs in the center, let them cook right there in front of the guests, put all the guests around them. I walked around with a microphone and talked about why I selected this particular item and where this was sourced from, all local Utah food. And this is, and you know, when you start talking about food and you start describing it as the sear on the meat and that we're going to slice into that, when I had a cameraman and screens around, I said, oh, look at that. That's been held perfectly. The juices are lovely. I'm going to pour over this gorgonzola butter on top of it, let it melt through there. I mean, people are just like, can't wait to have it come to their table. And they're all doing this kind of thing. At the end of the night, the guy who was the head of this committee that was coming to Salt Lake to look to see if we were appropriate called me over and he said, Mary, a year from now, I'm not going to remember what I ate. I'm not. But I'm never going to forget how I felt. I felt you were talking to me. My experience mattered to you. And the way you came to each table and embraced us, he said, I'm never going to forget this. That for me shifted how I approached my company and the kind of experience I could leave them with. I'm just one person. You have a megaphone. I couldn't be happier that you are spreading this message far and wide, that it's not about the transactional piece of feeding people or whatever it is that you're doing, providing software for people. You know, maybe you're a clothing shop. It's not about putting clothing on them. It's about giving them an experience of their value.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It completely changes everything. It changes not only how we make other people feel, but as you're just explaining here in that story, which is a beautiful thing, it changes how we do life, how we experience life, how we experience any situation, any season we might find ourselves in.
Yeah.
But it takes work though. Like I don't have it all figured out all the time either. And I'm it's one of the reasons I think I'm so compelled to keep doing what I, have now been able to do here the last few years is because like it is about humanness. It's about like relating to each other and realizing we are more alike than we are different. All we
Uh,
need to do a lot of the time is just to kind of chill and slow down and spend some time doing what we're doing, just connecting a little bit and opening up. And I'll be vulnerable with you. You might be vulnerable back with me. And it's in those moments when the stories are being shared that connection, actual human, emotional connections start to happen.
I
I
couldn't
love it.
agree more with you. Taylor, I have a screen in one of the PowerPoints I use when I speak, and it's towards the end, and it comes up and it says, "Are you ready to get naked?" And people just like, you know, and then they kind of giggle. I said, "Oh, I see where your mind's going." Yeah, I'm not talking about that kind of naked. I'm talking about emotionally, mentally, spiritually naked, socially naked. As you walk down this path of hospitality, for me, this is an easy relate because I was in the hospitality industry. But this doesn't just relate to people who are in the hospitality industry. How do people apply the principles that you're teaching, what your books are about, if you are like, you write code? I mean, how does this principle universally apply?
Yeah, I would say I would answer it in this way. Ready? We have 6 virtues of leading with hospitality. The first one is to have a commitment to connection, a commitment to connecting with people, human beings, in the world of AI even. Have a commitment to connecting with human beings on an emotional, like, human level. Number 2 is striving for self-mastery, and this is the emotional intelligence component. And so within the striving for self-mastery, virtue, if you will, is all about before we can successfully lead other people, before we can successfully serve other people or provide for we gotta figure out how to first lead ourselves.
Uh,
And it's the 4 components of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness. You put all 3 of those together and you get relationship management. Virtue number 3 is to think about leadership as a service to other people. And you don't need a title to be a leader, to your point. If you're not somebody that has a leadership role, a leadership title, well, you can still be a leader among your peers. You
yeah,
can still be a leader in any given conversation by the way you
yourself.
show up,
Yeah.
by bringing the weather. Number 1, commitment to connection. Number 2, strive for self-mastery all the time, all the way
Mhm.
through. Number 3, thinking about leadership as a service to other people. Number 4, engaging with people purposefully. Engaging purposefully by sort of being generous, giving your time, giving your talent, giving your heart in whatever capacity, in whatever situation you can.
Mm.
Recognizing other people for who they are, not for what they've accomplished, but recognizing other people and letting them know, hey, I see you. I see you.
Ah,
And then thinking about that purpose we talked about. So, like, that's part of engaging purposefully is when you figure out your personal purpose, it changes how you engage with other people. Number 5 is coaching with grace, grit, and intention. So, like, showing up as like this person that could, what if you were that person in somebody else's life that enabled them to see something differently, that enabled them to make a change, to course correct, and ultimately become more successful than they would have ever become unless or until they had that one conversation or that one experience with you. And the 6th virtue is becoming inspired to inspire other people. This is the idea that we've got to fill up so we can pour into other people.
yeah.
It's impossible to pour from an empty cup. So no matter what your role in the show, no matter what level you might be in leadership, or no matter what industry that you're in, think about those 6 things: connect, strive for self-mastery, serve,
Mm.
engage, coach, and inspire, and watch
Mm.
what happens.
Watch what
Watch what
happens.
happens and feel this moment where, man, all of a sudden you're like, all of a sudden I'm successful. All of a sudden things are starting to open up. And by the way, I actually feel good about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and for whom I'm doing it.
Ugh, so powerful. That is so powerful. And I think about uh, most of the people that watch this show are between the ages of 30 and 55. The demographics are 85% women, 15% men. Bless those 15% men that watch my women talk every single week. Thank you. I love you. But what I've learned is that they are all, most of them are career people. And most of them see themselves as successful, but something's still lacking. And I put to you that I think this is the piece that if they're feeling that, there are those who feel it and they're still on the journey, but there are those who ask the question, what is it that's yet out there for me? And I tend to believe it's what you've written about. It's this gift of moving out of self after you've healed self to giving back to others, to hospitality. When people say, "Oh, I'm not a manager." Well, like, you're not? What do you do in your house? What do you do with your family? You're not a manager. Okay, well, who's managing you? Nobody? Well, maybe that's why you're feeling like you're coming up against a brick wall. So the idea of giving love and experiencing hospitality, if you're not first starting with you, it lacks. And I think about even the person that sits in a cubicle, interacts with so many people, and can have that same effect where people want to be around you. I would bet to say, and like I read some of the with your what's her name, Summer Grace?
Yep, Summer Grace. Yep.
Summer Grace, that I tended to think that eventually she came to this place where people just loved being with her. Their faces, they just lit up when they just like would see her because she offered them something they weren't finding anyplace else. What is that golden key that she offers?
Yeah, it was the whole point of the story is the subtitle is a hopeful story of what happens when we live, work, and love from a place of generosity.
Uh,
And so the story, as you took a little spin through there, it's the story of Summer Grace's first 2 weeks on the job with this new place that she's chosen to go work called Calvella Resorts,
in
and they're a
Hawaii.
hotel
Yeah.
a hotel brand, Hawaiian theming, and so it's all about the spirit of aloha, which I believe is a great way for anybody that's looking to be more hospitable, get into the hospitality, whether you want to get into the hospitality industry or you want to be somebody, no matter what industry you're in, that shows up like the way we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so I just took all these things that I've learned over these last 25 years from these different brands and different professors and leaders and coaches and people like yourself that I'll pick up your guys' books. I'll log into your podcast over the last, 10, 15 years. So I just created a story and like wanted to create a place, even if it was just fictional in my own mind and heart for right now. But it's based on the Calvella Resorts. Has five values, five organizational values: give compassion, give encouragement, give kindness, give hospitality, and give leadership. And so what I did is I took a G word, an I word, a V word, and an E word, that when we focus on those sentiments, it helps us bring to life compassion, encouragement, kindness, hospitality, and leadership. And so I'll let everybody, grab the book and you find out what those GIVE words are. But it was less about Summer Grace being that one person that everybody, no, this is a cult. This could be your culture. This could be the culture on your team. This could be the culture in your organization. This could be the type of leader. This could be the type of person that you could be for other people. And what I've tried to do is just make it a story. I got a lot of feedback from between this book and this book.
I
That
bet.
people are like, yeah, that's pretty good. But like, can you do a story next time? Because I like a story. So I was like, okay. So I tried to do a story. So hopefully this gives people, and they can go to leadwithhospitality.com and have an action plan that will help anybody. It's kind of an accompaniment, kind of like a complement to the book. It's like this, side by side
Yeah.
that helps us think about our own lives and how we can show up those with those virtues and hold ourselves accountable, to come out and let our behaviors start to reshape the story, start to tell the story of not only who we are, but it could also help reshape the story of any given brand, organization, or team.
At the end of this podcast, we're going to have all those links for people, the link to your book, the link to your hosp leadwithhospitality.com. Is that right?
Mhm,
We'll have
mhm.
all of those links. Any other links, if you want people to follow you on LinkedIn or social media or whatever your company is doing, we'll include all of those because people love to follow up. They're like, well, I want to know more about that guy. And was sitting here thinking about if you're a manager or a CEO, or you simply are in a leadership position anywhere, imagine creating that kind of culture when people gather at work or social or whatever the situation, and you've established a culture of love, of caring, of genuine hospitality. What would it feel like if you could walk in every day to work and know that people were not here to work, but we were here to serve? It would be completely different. Wow. I'm
Top to bottom, bottom to top.
I can tell you this, I'm gonna reach back out to my children who are running that company now. I think we have about 80 full-time employees, about 250 part-time employees, and they're focused on this all the time. And my oldest son is always looking for a book to bring the team and making sure the team, and you can probably validate this, that if the team's not happy, it doesn't matter how many word phrases you have on the walls.
That's right.
If the team is not a good culture, it doesn't matter how good your food is.
That's right.
Because it's way down there. And when I would give a bid to people and they would say, the food looks pretty reasonable. I can see where the rentals are. Those are all good. This is how it's going to look. Here's your decor. I like it to look pretty. I want people to be wow. And then they would look down at what I was charging for the service staff. And they'd be like, that's the biggest ticket on the bill. I'm like, yeah, it is. And aren't you lucky?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's how important it is. I want there to be not one detail dropped as we serve you. And they're like,
Yeah, one of the fundamental things with this entire all of the things that we've been talking about, one of the fundamental things and one of the fundamental reasons that I saw some of these parallels, hospitality, leadership, ooh, a lot of the same things.
yeah,
It's based on what you just unpacked, which is backed by science. That there's this thing where, like, you know how we have the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. The left side of the brain is responsible for the logic. The right side of the brain is responsible for emotions and feelings and creativity and imagination. So Jonathan Haidt, the great NYU
right.
psychologist, he has a book, The Happiness Hypothesis, which has a metaphor that I used in my book, Lead with Hospitality, because Chip and Dan Heath, when they wrote Switch, How to Change When Change is Hard, they used Jonathan Haidt's research in their book that sold 12 million copies, 48 different languages. I'm like, if Chip and Dan can use it, I
Yeah,
want to use it
yeah,
too.
absolutely.
So here's what it is. Jonathan Haidt says here's a metaphor for what's going on inside the human brain at all times. He said, picture a rider sitting on top of a 6-ton elephant. The rider represents the logical side of the brain, the left brain. The elephant represents the right side of the brain, the emotion. And here's the takeaway for you and me as leaders, for you and me as marketers, salespeople, or even partners and friends and family members. If the rider and the elephant, if the left brain and the right brain ever disagree on which direction to go or whether or not to spring into action, who's going to win the argument, the rider or the elephant?
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be
That
the
is
elephant
such
every
a
single
great
time.
analogy. I love that. Yeah.
Elephant every single time for a couple reasons.
Yeah.
One, that's why I love this metaphor. It's a 6-ton elephant with a 6-ton weight advantage over the rider. And the other thing is what the left brain and the right brain contribute to this situation. The rider, the left brain, they're responsible for providing the direction of where the human being is going to go.
Yeah.
But the elephant is responsible for providing the energy and enthusiasm to move. the energy and enthusiasm to change direction, the energy and enthusiasm to spring into action, doing things like coming back to your company and spending more money, telling
Yeah.
stories about how awesome the experience
Right?
was. And so it can all be summed up by the great John Maxwell. He has a quote that sums the entire thing up. And it goes like this: we can't move people into action unless we first move them with emotion. And
Absolutely.
so that sentiment, that principle, that concept alone, I just have always believed we can all learn so much from that. Whether you're a leader, a salesperson, a marketer, or a member of a team. So I leave that with the audience here. You can't move people into action unless you first move them with emotion. With the
Absolutely.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Everybody do it together.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. I love this. I am going to, as soon as we end this podcast, I'm going to get on the horn with my two sons and say, I want the team to read this book. I want the team to, first, I want you to read it and see if this is of value. And then I will pay for the books to have the team read them. Because even though I'm not an owner anymore, for 35 years, my face and my name was synonymous. And I want everyone on this team to be experiencing what you're talking about. Wow.
Well, I appreciate that. That is some that is some very meaningful validation at a time right now. I'll be honest and vulnerable with you. At a time right now when I really appreciate that. I really needed to hear something like that. I needed a win here. There's been a lot of things happening. This year's been weird. I don't know about you, people watching, people listening.
Yep.
2025, a little bit strange.
Yeah.
Bit of a roller coaster, especially here lately with the economy and all the things. And
Yeah.
and so anyway, I really appreciate
Not to
that.
wax
And
political, but
yeah, yeah. I really appreciate your I appreciate your encouragement. I appreciate your kindness. It does mean a lot to me. So I appreciate that.
well, Taylor, this is the one thing I'm going to leave with you. It's what I left with the group I spoke to yesterday. And that is that, aren't you excited for 2026? Because think of everything that happened in 225 that prepared you for the launch of what's going to happen next year.
That's right.
Get ready for it. Get
That's
ready for
right.
it, Taylor.
That's right. The whole like year of the snake, 2025, year of the snake, shedding
Yep.
relationships,
Yep.
things that no longer align with you and your purpose. I've been seeing all this stuff coming. But the 2026 is the year of the horse, to your point. Apparently there's something coming. Some
Giddy up.
momentum here. Yes, giddy up.
All right. Such a delight to have you on. Thank you for bringing this to light. It needs to be shouted from the rooftops, and you have provided us with 3 books, your new book. Plus, my bet is that you actually offer this service for companies where you can come in, and I thought so. Yeah.
Absolutely. Keynotes, live learning experiences, workshops. We have
Yeah.
half day experiences, full day experiences, 2-day workshops. So yeah, leadwithhospitality.com. There's a work with us page on there. Visit us there. I'd love to connect with you. T Scott 1502 on Instagram. And then of course on LinkedIn, where we spend a lot of our time.
Yeah.
Taylor Scott on LinkedIn. If you type in Taylor Scott space and start to type out lead with hospitality, I'll usually pop up, and I would love to connect.
And it's not too late, listeners, to have your holiday gathering be something that people walk away from and say, wow, that was like the best party I've ever been to, but why was it? And as they think about it, they'll know it was because of you and what you brought personally to this experience with them. And I'm so delighted to have Taylor on this week, and that you can think about hospitality in your own home through the holiday season. And then let's launch 2025 in bringing this concept, living hospitality, to life in your life and the life of those around you. Merry Christmas. Namaste.
Crafting a meaningful life.